For thousands of years, we've had this dream of creating beings in our own image. Think about it. Automatons of bronze, statues of ivory, even golems of clay. But what happens when that dream starts to move from pure myth into actual reality? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. The history of one of humanity's oldest and I think most fascinating quests, the mission to build a machine that can think.
And really, it all boils down to one deceptively simple question. Can a machine actually think? I mean, this single question has haunted and inspired some of the greatest minds in history. It's really the engine that drives this entire story.
So how would you even test that? Well, maybe the most famous attempt to answer that question came from the brilliant Alan Turing. He came up with this simple but really profound test he called the imitation game. Here's how it works. A human judge is having two text conversations at the same time. One is with another person, and the other is with a machine. If that judge can't reliably tell which one is the machine, well, then the machine is said to have passed the test. And this isn't just some abstract thought experiment either. The Turing test is the basis for a real-deal competition, the Loebner Prize, that's held every year. The whole challenge is to create a chatbot that can fool the judges. And what's absolutely fascinating to me is that the grand prize, we're talking $100,000 for a program that's truly indistinguishable from a human, it's still up for grabs. No one's claimed it yet.
Okay, so you might be thinking this whole dream of creating artificial life started with computers, right? Well, not even close. To find the real origins, we've got to travel back in time. I mean, way, way back into the world of myth and magic.
This idea of artificial people, it's woven right into our oldest stories. You look at ancient Greece, right? The god Hephaestus was said to have forged Talos, this giant man of bronze, to protect an island. Or what about the myth of Pygmalion? He's a sculptor who creates his perfect woman, Galatea, out of ivory, and a goddess brings her to life. And then there's the inventor Daedalus. Legend says he created statues so lifelike they could actually move on their own.
So, fast forward to the 18th century, and these old myths are inspiring some incredible mechanical creations. You had things like Vaucanson's digesting duck, this automaton that looked like it was eating grain, metabolizing it, and, well, pooping it out. It was a super clever trick, but man, it wowed audiences. But even more famous was the mechanical Turk. This was a chess-playing machine that defeated huge names like Napoleon and Benjamin Franklin. The secret, though? Yeah, it wasn't gears and cogs. It was an actual human chess master cleverly hidden inside the whole thing.
Okay, so for a really long time, the focus was all on mimicking life with these clever mechanical tricks. But then something shifted. A really profound shift happened. The goal wasn't just to build a mechanical body anymore. The new goal was to understand the mechanics of the mind itself.
And the crucial turning point, really, came from a 17th century philosopher named Thomas Hobbes. He put forward this absolutely revolutionary idea. He said reasoning, it isn't some magical spiritual process. He argued that thinking is simply a form of computation. It's just the manipulation of symbols. Now, this was a seismic shift. It totally detached thought from the soul and made it something physical, something that could, in theory, actually be built.
And then, taking Hobbes' idea even a step further, was Gottfried Leibniz. He had this incredible dream of creating a universal logical language, what he called an alphabet of human thought. His big idea was, if we could just translate all of our arguments into this special language, we could solve any disagreement not by debating, but just by calculating. Can you imagine that? Let us calculate, he said, to see who is right.
Okay, so in the 19th century, this guy Charles Babbage comes along and designs the machine that could finally do this kind of calculation. He called it the analytical engine. And this thing was a beast, a massive, steam-powered mechanical computer. Now, while it was never actually fully built in his lifetime, the design was just astonishing. It had memory, a central processor. Basically, it was the blueprint for every single computer that came after it.
But the next big conceptual leap came from Babbage's collaborator, the incredible Ada Lovelace. She looked at the designs for this engine and saw something more. She realized its power wasn't just limited to numbers. If a machine could manipulate symbols that represent numbers, she thought, it could manipulate symbols for anything, like musical notes. She literally foresaw a machine that could one day compose music or create art. It was just a breathtaking insight into the creative potential of computing, way ahead of its time.
So for about the next 100 years or so, these ideas were just kind of percolating.
But it really took the invention of the electronic computer to finally bring all the different threads together. You've got philosophy, logic, engineering, all of it converging to create a brand new field of science.
And you could say this is basically the official birthday party for AI. In the summer of 1956, a group of brilliant researchers, we're talking pioneers like John McCarthy and Marvin Minsky, they all gathered at Dartmouth College for a workshop. Their whole goal was to explore the possibility of creating thinking machines. And it was for this very event that they came up with a new name for their field, artificial intelligence.
And wow, talk about an ambitious goal. This was their founding statement. They started from this incredibly bold assumption that intelligence, in all its forms, learning, creativity, language, wasn't some unknowable mystery. No, they believed it was a process that could be broken down, described with total precision, and ultimately programmed into a machine.
All right, so the Dartmouth Conference gave the field its name and its mission. But now what? What was the actual theory? What was the big idea that was going to drive AI research for the next 30 years?
Well, get this. While the conference organizers were busy talking about what could be done in the future, two researchers named Herbert Simon and Alan Newell showed up and just basically stole the show. They were apparently described as vaguely known persons at the time, but they brought something with them, a computer program they called the Logic Theorist, and it was astounding. This was the first program ever designed to mimic human reasoning, and it could independently prove mathematical theorems, and sometimes it found proofs that were even more elegant than the ones humans had come up with.
So out of this incredible demonstration came what is probably the single most important idea in all of early AI. It's called the physical symbol system hypothesis. And their groundbreaking claim was basically this. Any system, and it doesn't matter if it's made of metal and silicon or of neurons and goo, any system that can manipulate symbols according to a set of rules has everything it needs for general intelligent action.
Let's just break that down for a second, because it's huge. The crucial point here is that intelligence, according to this idea, isn't tied to biology. It doesn't have to be made of flesh and blood. It's all about processing information. This idea, which people now sometimes call good old-fashioned AI, well, it became the guiding light for the entire field, and it's what really launched the modern quest to build a mind out of pure code.
And that brings our whole journey full circle, right back to a pretty deep philosophical question about us. Think about it. If a computer, just by manipulating symbols, can achieve general intelligence, and if our own brains are at their very core just incredibly complex biological machines that manipulate electrochemical symbols, then what's the real difference? Are we in the end just thinking machines too? That's a question to ponder. Thanks for joining me on this one.